You know, when most people hear the term home staging, they usually think, oh, that's just interior decorating, right? Picking out some nice furniture, throwing a few pillows around, maybe a fresh coat of paint. But what if I told you it's actually less about art and way more about science? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and reveal the powerful psychology that turns a regular house into a home you just have to have.
I mean, we've all seen this on TV, right? Those home improvement shows where they take a cluttered, kind of lived-in space and boom, it's magically transformed into this perfect showpiece. And suddenly, buyers are just lining up. It really does look like magic. But I'm here to tell you, it's not. There's a very deliberate, very calculated strategy at play here.
See, this is the thing. Staging isn't about what the seller likes, or even what's super trendy at the moment. It's not about creating the most beautiful room you could possibly imagine. That's interior design, a whole different ballgame. Staging has a much more specific and, honestly, a much more cunning objective.
Yeah, you heard that right. It's all about hacking the buyer's brain. Effective home staging is basically a masterclass in applied psychology. It's designed to tap right into our cognitive biases and emotional triggers that guide how a buyer sees a place and makes decisions. And a lot of the time, they don't even realize it's happening. Okay, so let's dive into how this actually works.
All right, first things first. It all kicks off the second a potential buyer walks through that door. Or, let's be real, the second they see that very first photo online. You don't get minutes to win them over. You literally have seconds.
7 seconds. That's it. That's all you get. In less time than it takes to tie your shoes, a buyer has already formed this powerful, lasting opinion about a property. And I'm not exaggerating here. This is a real, well-documented psychological phenomenon. So this is called the primacy effect. And what it means is our brains are just hardwired to give way more importance to the very first thing we see. So if that first impression is positive, a bright, welcoming, super organized space, it creates this amazing positive filter that they see the rest of the house through. That first glance really does set the stage for everything that comes after.
Okay, so how does staging actually use that first impression to keep influencing a buyer? Well, it does it by strategically playing on a few key cognitive biases that, let's face it, all of our brains fall for. First on the list is something called the halo effect. You know how when you see one really outstanding quality in something, you just kind of assume everything else about it is great too? That's the halo effect. In staging, that perfectly put together living room creates a halo around the whole property. That positive feeling from just one space makes buyers subconsciously way more forgiving of other areas that might not be so perfect. And get this, the data totally backs this up. Research actually shows that buyers are a staggering 27% more willing to overlook little flaws, like, say, a dated light fixture or a small scratch on the floor, if the home is well staged. That halo is literally making them blind to the negatives and getting them focused on all the potential.
All right, next up, we've got the anchoring bias. The very first piece of info we get about something acts as an anchor for how we perceive its value. So an unstaged home, maybe it's empty or cluttered, that sets a really low anchor. But a professionally staged home, that sets a very high anchor. It just looks valuable. It looks cared for. It looks move-in ready. And all of that makes the asking price feel much more reasonable, much more justified.
And finally, staging taps into one of the most powerful biases of all, loss aversion. Psychologically, the pain of losing something feels about twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining it. So by creating a space that buyers absolutely fall in love with, staging makes them feel like they've already found the one. The fear of losing out on that perfect home to someone else, while that creates this powerful sense of urgency to make an offer and to do it fast.
So, beyond all these little cognitive tricks, the real ultimate goal of staging is to get past the logical part of the brain and build a powerful emotional bond between the buyer and the house.
Because at the end of the day, what this all boils down to is that people don't really buy houses. They buy the feeling of a home, right? They're searching for a sanctuary, a place where they can picture their future life happening. The entire goal is to spark that instant, gut-level reaction that makes them go, this is it. This is the one.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The data from the National Association of Realtors on this is just overwhelmingly clear. A massive 83% of buyers' agents agree that staging makes it way easier for a buyer to visualize a property as their future home. It's basically the bridge that connects a physical building to a buyer's dreams.
So how do they do it? How do they make that connection?
Well, it's by creating what stagers call a blank canvas. Now, this doesn't mean making the home feel cold or sterile, not at all. It's about depersonalizing it.
taking down the specific family photos, the really unique collections, the super bold decor. Doing this lets buyers mentally move in and start projecting their own life and their own memories onto the space. Okay, so once that emotional connection starts to form, how do stagers build on it? Well, they use these specific tactical design techniques that are all rooted in psychology to kind of manipulate how we perceive a physical space, making it feel bigger, brighter, and just plain more appealing.
Color, for instance, is a huge one. Warm colors, think soft yellows or beiges, can make a really large, cavernous room feel cozier, more intimate. But on the flip side, cool colors like light blues and grays, they have this receding quality. They visually push the walls back, which can make a smaller room feel significantly larger and way more airy.
And that brings us to a classic little design secret, the rule of 3. Our brains are just naturally drawn to patterns. And for whatever reason, arranging items in odd numbers, especially 3s, is just super appealing visually. It makes us look longer. So whether it's 3 pillows on a couch or using 3 different textures in a room, this simple trick creates a sense of harmony that's both really engaging and memorable. And of course, there's light. Stagers are absolute masters of layering light. First, they'll open up all the blinds to get as much natural sunlight in as possible. That makes rooms feel bigger and cleaner, right? Then, they add in artificial light, things like lamps and accent lighting, to get rid of any dark corners and create this warm, inviting vibe that highlights the home's best features, starting right from the moment you step through the front door. So, after all this talk of psychology and strategy, you're probably wondering, does it actually pay off? Well, the evidence is pretty conclusive. You really shouldn't see staging as a cost. You should see it as one of the smartest financial investments a seller can possibly make.
I mean, let's just look at the numbers for a second. According to Realtors, a huge portion of them report that staged homes get higher offers. 29%, that's almost a third, saw price increase of anywhere from 1 to 10%. Now think about that. On a $500,000 home, that's an extra $5,000 to $50,000. That's real money, right back in the seller's pocket. So when you look at it that way, the money you spend on professional staging, which is usually just a few $1,000s, it isn't a cost at all, is it? It's an investment that often brings back a return that is 5, 10, even 15 times what you put in. It's a powerful marketing tool, plain and simple, designed to get the absolute most out of the single biggest asset most people will ever own. So home staging is this brilliant mix of design and human psychology, all cooked up to create desire. It just proves that how we feel in a space is every bit as important as the space itself. And now that you know the science behind it all, you're probably going to start noticing these principles of influence everywhere, from the way a retail store's laid out to the ambiance in a restaurant, all designed to make you feel a certain way. So the only real question left is, what are you going to see differently now?